Hey, welcome back to This Week in Gender, where hopefully in 10 minutes or less we talk about gender.
That's right.
My name is Carlos. I'm the manager of online programming and community development at Gender Spectrum.
And I'm Lisa Kenny, Executive Director at Gender Spectrum.
So it's been a while.
It's been a while. It's nice to see you again. And well, I mean, I
Likewise.
see you, but nice to see you in here.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's sort of exciting. Lots of stuff going on in the world of gender.
a lot.
A
Yeah.
lot.
We've got some interesting topics today.
We hope, yeah.
I guess I should start since mine's kind of weird and
Oh, no, it's super weird.
and morbid.
Yeah.
So we'll start on a low, we'll end on a high. How
There
about
you go.
that?
All right, good. I like that.
So recently, apparently a new gender identity has surfaced from our folks at 4chan, which I like online communities. Some are better than others. I think 4chan is a pretty cool platform, but there's some people out there that just don't have anything better to do with their time than to troll. So Clover gender is what we're talking about today. And Clover gender, according to the people at 4chan, who I'm just looking at this printout that I have, are creating a new gender to troll social justice warriors with. Clover gender is a child trapped in a man's body who is attracted to other children.
Which has nothing to do with gender.
I'm like, where is the gender aspect
Yeah,
of that?
because there is
This
no
is
gender.
It's a sexual thing that you're trying to spin as a gender identity.
Right.
If you're going to make fun of something, at least figure out what you're making fun of. Otherwise, you just look like an idiot.
Yeah, because otherwise they wouldn't look that way at all. They'd look like geniuses.
It's
But at least do your homework enough to know what gender is before you try to mock it, right?
Right.
So much for the sincerest form of flattery.
It's more entertaining
Yeah.
than anything else.
No,
I mean,
yeah.
it's
Well,
like-
and pathetic, right? I mean, I think this whole thing, that first of
Absolutely.
all, to make up a new gender that actually doesn't deal with gender at all,
Right.
and is only created to try to make a mockery of something you don't understand and obviously have spent no time to try to understand.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, as somebody who has a hard enough time going to work and taking care of my kids and cleaning my house, and I don't seem to have time to do anything else other than the basics of my life.
Right,
I think, who
right.
has time to sit around, like, who wants to put their life energy in that? That's the
Yeah.
thing that I'm always just kind of amazed at,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, I could tell you who has time. Conservative commentator Lauren Southern retweeted an image and said, actually thinking that it was a real gender identity.
Oh.
And everyone's favorite person, Martin Shkreli,
He's a stand-up guy.
he's an absolute stand-up person.
Yeah, he's a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
Well, you know, in those things when you say, like, who do you wish was your best friend, or have it as a dinner guest, or as a lover, or something? There would be no,
Martin
no, and no.
Shkreli is
None-
not on any of those.
list for anybody that.
If he's
Oh, yeah.
involved with anything, it's
Yeah,
automatically
it's a
going to be a
pass.
joke.
Yeah, it's a no.
I'm not going to touch that.
No,
Not at all.
I'm sorry
So
for
I
his
think-
parents.
Yeah, seriously. It's such a red herring, though, isn't
Yeah.
it? I mean, what are
Yeah.
they? If you're going to try to make an argument, at least understand what the argument is.
Right. Well, I think, it just goes to say that, I think there is something underneath where there's people that really, there's a lot they don't know, and
Yeah.
they can feel threatened by what they don't know. And
Right.
that part is really understandable. That's human nature.
Yeah.
I think to take it from, I don't know about this, to now let me actively do something of it, like, this takes time.
And planning.
And
This was
planning
over
and
the course
effort,
of a week,
coordination
these
of other
people-
people
yeah.
who have a lot of time on their hands. It's just,
There's
that's the part to me that is like,
there's this entire
it goes
thread.
somewhere else. Yeah.
It's an entire week's worth of planning of how they're going to infiltrate Tumblr and Facebook to mock social justice warriors.
Well, that's important, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're just wasting their time advocating for
Yeah,
people.
yeah. We don't want. Working for a just society. That's who wants
Who
that?
would've
I'd much
thought?
rather spend my time trying to tear that down.
Right, exactly. Because I
that's
have
right.
nothing better to do.
It's all part of the justice ecosystem. Those that do, and those that try to tear down those that do.
Right,
Well,
right.
there we
exactly.
go. Anyway, well.
Okay, so I think I'm over talking about this. I think
Okay.
it's,
This is
and in a week,
interesting.
it'll be dead news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll hope so. Well, I actually really am excited about the thing I'm talking about. Draw my. So lots of discussion about it, but I think it's really terrific. National Geographic over the holidays came out with an entire issue, an entire magazine dedicated to gender. And there's also now going to be in February a companion film that Katie Couric did that also looks at, the reality of gender, which is that it's more complex, right? We've talked about this many times. It's not as simple. Even in talking about bodies, gender is more than our bodies. But even when talking about bodies, things are certainly much more complex than that.
Absolutely.
What I loved about both, because I've had the opportunity both to read the whole issue, but also to see the film, is I think that both National Geographic and Susan, who's their editor, and that staff, and thinking about how to do it, really did what National Geographic does so well. To look at the history and the culture and people and the science, and to look at it from this lens. And it's truly, we see projects all the time, much of which we just think this is another Me Too article. This is far from that. And while some people might sort of take exception with one thing or another, nothing's perfect. But boy, did they really try to address what's going on with gender. And I really appreciate, obviously, you look at something like that and you see they committed an enormous amount of resource into that.
Of staffing.
It's incredibly impressive. And I love it. It's not just about what's going on around the gender spectrum and sort of the generational gap around gender, but also looking at what does it mean? Is the 9-year-old piece in different countries in the world? I love that.
That was really cool. I really liked that.
It was great, wasn't it? The science of gender is really interesting. They begin to try to cover that. I think looking at pathways to manhood in various cultures, again, really, it just really comes down to gender. It's just so much bigger than any one dimension, whether it's our bodies or even just, and this, what I loved about both the film and the National Geographic issue is that it really shows, this is, as much as people might want to diminish that this is really about a West Coast, East Coast, U.S. thing, it's not. It's a global thing that's going on. It's really an amazing thing, and it really helped, I think, highlight the complexity of gender without making it so complicated that people go, oh, wow, this is just too much, I don't get it, and they're defaulting back. So kudos to National Geographic and to Katie Couric and her team on what I think is really just a terrific film and a magazine. And really, I think will help a lot of people understand this in a way in which it hasn't been put together before. And I'm just really pleased that they've done that, and I think it's a tremendous resource for so many.
And it's worth pointing out, too, that a couple of the gender spectrum National Youth Council members are actually featured in the article, in the piece. So that's really great.
I think it's great, and I think, National Geographic team had reached out to us during that process, and I think I appreciate that. But also, they just went really far. They've talked to lots of different people, and they're looking at it in a lot of different ways, and I just think that's terrific. So
it is. So kudos.
Unlike our friends that have tried not to understand it all, I think that's terrific. And one thing, too, I want to just give a shout out to Katie Couric in that, there was a lot of controversy at the time over her interview in 2014 with Laverne Cox. And one of the things I really appreciate about Katie, and the reason why I think it's so important, because I think it's important for all of us, is, in the process of learning, there were missteps, as there always is. Whenever we're learning something, that's the whole thing about learning it. We don't know, right?
Learning, right?
Exactly. And instead of trying to hide that, she let that be seen in that interview with Laverne Cox. And they came back together again to try to talk about that experience. And I think, again, what she shows herself as is a learner in this situation. And I just want to name that. I think that's where we all are. Nobody knows all the answers. The issues are we trying to better understand. And in contrast to the example you gave, where somebody's really trying not to understand, I think living out loud that as an example to everybody that, this is just about learning. And there are missteps, but let's have a conversation and let's learn together. And everybody bring their self to it, because everybody has a gender, and let's learn from one another. I think it's terrific, and I think that National Geographic issue, as well as the film, is really terrific. And thanks to everybody who had a role in that. It's exciting, including our youth council people.
All right, that's all we got for This Week in Gender.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care. We'll see you next week, where we talk about This Week in Gender.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.